In 2012 to 2015, the Nintendo Wii U didn't really have much games to make the console stand out other than some Mario games, but that all changed when Splatoon released. The rundown of Splatoon is pretty simple. Splatoon is a third-person shooter released for the Nintendo Wii U in 2015 by Nintendo. The main mode of Splatoon is Turf War. You try to cover up the ink with your team's paint, while the opposing team tries to do the same thing with their ink. Whoever team puts the most ink on the map wins. There's also a story mode and other ranked modes, but I'll talk about that later in the video. The development of Splatoon 1 started in 2013 when one of the developers on Animal Crossing, Shitaro Sako, wanted to make a multiplayer shooter based on ink. They made a prototype game starring Tofu as characters, which doesn't make sense. Tofu and ink don't have any similarities at all, and the devs knew that. They also ran into other problems, such as making the game feel simple and just nice to play overall. Also, making the characters for it was a pretty big deal too. The characters were one of the biggest problems of the game, so much that they thought the gameplay was the problem at first. They used tofu, but they ended up scrapping the idea, and they used generic humans, and then they went to rabbits, and that stuck around for a while, but it still didn't make sense on why rabbits were shooting paint or ink. So they asked the god of gaming, Shigeru Miyamoto, for advice. He said they needed to make characters that could stand out and make you think, yeah, that's Splatoon. So they went back and made a bunch of concept designs that didn't stick for long. In the end, they used squids that were actually thought about during the development, but at the time they just thought it was an interesting little idea. So they ended up using squids, and it looked weird but cool. They showed Miyamoto, and he actually liked it. I don't really know what happened to this part of the recording, but all I said was that the squids fixed a numerous amount of problems they were dealing with before the squids were added in, like swimming up walls. Swimming up walls wasn't actually in the game at first, and it was another hard thing to tackle, but with the squids, they could splat two birds with one stone. But the big issue with squids was that human-like squids didn't look so good, as stated before, until one of the developers suggested them the idea of looking like humans and them looking like squids in different forms, and it went on from there. At first, they looked like teenagers, but then they became what we knew to know them as now. So in 2014, at Nintendo's E3, Splatoon was released and it was actually playable on the show floor. The demo was just one map and one weapon kit, a splatter shot with a splat bomb and an bazooka. Before the release, they had a global test fire demo that gave people a taste of what Splatoon had to offer. Later on, Splatoon was released on May 29th, 2015 in the US, and ever since, it's been a major pop culture hit. The gameplay, as previously stated before, is a third-person shooter where you play as Inklings that shoot ink. Turf War is the main staple of the game, where you and three other teammates go against another team of four and try to cover up the map in your team's ink. Whoever has the most ink on the map wins. There are also other modes than just Turf War. They're called ranked battles, and ranked battles have three modes that rotate. Splat zones, your team has to have a specific area of the map inked up. Once it's accomplished, if you hold it long enough for the counter to count down to 0, the game ends. If no team has reached 0, then the team with the least amount of points on their counter wins. Tower control, you and your team needs to secure a tower by inking it up and riding it all the way to the enemy's base. If the tower hasn't completely reached the enemy's base, then the team who had it the furthest wins. Rainmaker, you have to grab a Rainmaker, this fish-like weapon that looks like this thing. It's basically a monster in Japanese folklore, but the Rainmaker you need to bring to the other team's side in order to win the game. If the round ends and no team brought it to each side, then the one who got it to the furthest to the other side wins. There's also a local co-op mode where you and the other player try to pop the most balloons in time limit. You can spot each other to decrease the opponent's score. The mode has one player to play on the TV and the other one to play on the gamepad, which I think is pretty cool. You can also tape a Wii remote to the Wii U Pro controller to use motion controls on the TV, which is pretty funny. In Splatoon, maps are rotated every 4 hours. 2 maps for Turf War and 2 maps in one rank mode, previously mentioned, for ranked battles. All the maps in Splatoon are Urchin Underpass, Walleye Warehouse, Splat Splay Rig, Arena Mall, Blackbelly Skate Park, Port Mackerel, Kelp Dome, Bufin Depot, Maury Towers, Camp Triggerfish, Flounder Heights, Hammerhead Bridge, Museum de Alfonso, My High Resort, Piranha Pit, and Anarangu V Games. Splatoon has many weapons to use in online battles. Each weapon has a sub-weapon and a special weapon. Sub-weapons are small secondary items that can be thrown, and they also use up a pretty good amount of ink depending on the weapon you use. Here's all of the sub-weapons. Splat Bomb, basically a grenade. Suction Bomb, same as a Splat Bomb, but it sticks to walls. Burst Bomb, it's a bomb that can be thrown multiple times without having to refill your ink, and they explode on impact. Seeker, it's basically a landmine on wheels, but it only goes forward, and if it doesn't hit something, it just explodes. Ink Mine, a landmine, that's all it is. Disruptor, a bomb that makes a fog to slow down your opponents. Point Sensor, a sensor that if somebody runs into it, it explodes and a cloud reveals all the enemy locations. Splash Wall, a wall that splats players as they walk into it. It also protects from enemy fire. Sprinkler, a sprinkler that sprays out ink. Squid Beacon, a beacon that lets players jump to the location of where the beacon is at. We'll talk more about that later. There are also special weapons. In order to use the special weapons, you have to fill the meter for it. In order to fill it up, you need to spray ink on the map and all of your opponent's ink too. Once the weapon is activated, you have a limited time to use it. Once it runs out, you have to refill the meter again. So here's the list of special weapons. Bomb Rush, you're able to throw an unlimited amount of your sub-weapon. Bubbler, a shield that protects you from everything. Echolocator, reveals the locations of all your opponents. Ink Strike, a massive missile that you have to fire with the Wii U gamepad. Inkzooka, a big rocket launcher that shoots tornadoes of ink. Killer Whale, a big ass speaker that shoots a huge sound wave that kills all opponents in its way. Now about the actual weapons, there's way too many to list all of them, but I'll just go through the basic ones and my favorite ones. Splattershot Jr., the Splattershot, Splattershot Pro, Splat Roller, Splatterscope, Mini Splatting, Ink Brush, Tri-Slosser, Jet Squelcher, Aerospray MG, Sploosh-O-Matic, and N-Zap. When you win battles, you earn money to buy weapons and clothes. There are a ton of clothing options to make your Inkling look cool, but there's way too many to list. But Splatoon did have some collabs with companies to make promotional clothing. Some of the companies were Kokoro 4, Famitsu, and they also had a collaboration with one anime called Squid Girl, ironically. There are more collaborations, but most of them happen in Splatoon 2. There's a lot of talk about Splatoon here, but I actually want to make the video, so I'll just end the gameplay part off here. Despite Splatoon being a multiplayer shooter, it actually does have a story mode. The story mode starts with the Squid Sisters saying that the Great Zapfish is stolen. The Zapfish is basically what gives electricity to the Inklings, but they seem fine without it though. The game tells you to not follow this old man that's inside of a manhole. If you do, you end up at the Squid Beak Splatoon base. The old guy introduces himself as Captain Cuttlefish and makes you Agent 3 of the Squid Beak Splatoon. He wants you to help find the Zapfish by going through Octo Valley and fighting the Octarians because they have the Zapfish. Octo Valley has 5 areas, and in order to get out of each area, you need to fight the boss in the area you're in. While you're playing through the story mode, you can find sunken scrolls that give you more details about Splatoon's world, like about the Great Turf War 100 years ago, and why Octarians live underground, and a bunch of other things. Halfway through the story, Cuttlefish gets kidnapped by DJ Activio, the leader of the Octolanes, so it sees Agent 1 and 2 to help you save Cuttlefish. Agents 1 and 2 are Callie and Marie in disguise. They're also celebrities called the Squid Sisters, but they're actually cousins that host the Inkopolis News and show off map rotations in Splatfests and other stuff. As you go to the 5th and final area of Octo Valley, you go and fight Octavio by going into a UFO. When you meet Octavio, you see Cuttlefish captured, and halfway through the fight, the Squid Sisters start singing the Calamari incantation that saves Cuttlefish and gives Agent 3 the motivation to defeat Octavio and save the Zapfish. Once you save the Zapfish, it gets put back where it goes. Cuttlefish thanks you, and Octavio is trapped in the snow globe. Some other small things I want to talk about are Splatfests. Splatfests are festivals that you have to pick a team and fight for them in Turf War. The team with the most Turf War wins the Splatfest. Splatoon 1 has stopped doing Splatfests though since 2016, with the final fest being Callie vs. Marie. Marie won, and it also influenced the Splatoon 2 story mode. Another thing I want to talk about is the world of Splatoon, specifically the clothing and music. The clothing in Splatoon have brands for them all. One thing I noticed how similar different pieces of clothing look from the same brand. It really makes the world feel real and live. But the music is a different story. Every song in Splatoon has a corresponding artist and album. You can also hear different singers in each song, but songs sung by the same singer, you can hear the same voice. Same thing with the bands playing in the background too. They also have albums assigned to them as well, which is pretty cool, and it has its own album art as well, along with titles for each song. I know it sounds like a small thing, but games didn't really put this much detail into the world, at least not in 2015. It makes the game feel like alive and like a real world, but it's probably just me though. I also want to talk about how the Wii U gamepad was used. Mainly, it was used for the map, but with some special items like the Inkzuka, you can pick where like the bomb would drop at. In story mode, you can use it to fast travel to areas in the hub. And you can also choose where to go and super jump to jump to your teammates or to squid beacons. Fun fact: the prototype was actually played on the gamepad, and the map was shown on the TV. One last fact about Splatoon is that Octolinks were supposed to be playable like how Splatoon 2 and 3 does it, but it was scrapped. But you can see leftover bits of playable Octolinks used in, and if you mod them into the game, you can actually play with them. Splatoon 1 was not the first Splatoon game I played. The first one I played was the Splatoon 2 2020 special demo, but technically Splatoon 1 was the first actual Splatoon game I played. I can't really say it changed my life or anything like that, but that would have to go to Splatoon 3. But I still had a very fun and memorable experience with Splatoon 1, and being able to look back and remember a game fondly means it was a really good game. Probably top 15. I don't really keep a list, but if you should play it or not, that's kind of a tricky question because Nintendo sort of shut down the service for it. But there is fan servers made to bring it back up and running, but it's really finicky and it's still in beta, so it's worth your time though to check out if you do have a Wii U. But overall, I think Splatoon is a very good game that holds up today if you can get it up and running online again. And it's still very fun to play. I just wish Nintendo ported it to the Switch because it's a unique game that plays different from 2 and 3. And I think everybody who likes Splatoon should play the first Splatoon. I know it's been like quite a while since like any of my videos came out. I know I published like little clips of stuff, but I didn't like actually publish like a full review like this one. And the reason why is because I was a fucking lazy bumfuck not doing anything 2024. I don't know, I didn't have the motivation, even though I had this whole ass video sitting on my computer during like the summer of 2024, and I have like 2 other scripts that I have, and I haven't even made it. I haven't like finished them either. So I don't know why. Is it I fucking no motivation? I don't even know. That's not it. Like, I was just a lazy dumb fuck who didn't want to do anything. But I do want to make more videos. But I need to get a new capture card because the stuff I do want to make videos on, I don't have the equipment yet. But yeah, I still can make videos though. That's not on that stuff. But I'll say I'll try to make more videos in the future. But yeah, I'll see how that goes. Anyways, bye.
Instead of Risky Reels, it was called Rapist Thrills. Dusty Divot was named Bloody Wound. Pleasant Park was renamed Agony Avenue, and Greasy Grove was renamed Disemboweled Drive. I won't list the other places, but you get the idea.